enough of the fun stuff. No, glad to see you all here again. I'm Greg Meyer, by the way, the pastor at Jacob's Well, and chance to share a few words with you about miracles today. And I'm looking forward to that because, who doesn't want miracles? Who doesn't like miracles? But who understands miracles at the same time? My understanding of miracles, I shouldn't probably admit this, but when I was in high school, the most beautiful girl in my class was named Mary Cole. I probably shouldn't use her real name because she maybe lives in the Twin Cities now too, but to me, Mary Cole and miracle were just about synonymous. Since then, I have gotten a little bit more sophisticated in my thinking. I want to cut to the chase though with you today. What I want to talk about with miracles, and on the back of your Sunday paper is on the outline of the message, is first of all that, God isn't interested in changing, and you'll get these fill-ins a little bit later, so I'll probably say them fast so you can write it down. God isn't interested in changing the laws of nature as much as the hearts of people. And we pray for miracles, but God sends people. And to receive miracles, you need to admit that you need one. And that is not just to yourself, kind of in your own inner darkness, but to God and actually to other people. And then finally, God intends for you to be a miracle. As I talk through those four things, what's the common denominator? That we're people. People. That's what we keep hearing about. And I think this is where we go wrong with trying to understand miracles in the first place. Is that we have this preconception that miracles are all about somehow God magically, miraculously changing laws of nature so something that should never have happened happens. And that gets us into all kinds of trouble. Because sometimes it can work that way. And I got to complain. I'm not here trying to tell you that miracles like that don't happen. They do. But I think the bigger, the more extraordinary and more everyday miracles that we miss because we're waiting for those are much more subtle. And they happen because of the people that God puts in our lives and the people in whose lives God puts us. We get in all kinds of messes, I think, when we start thinking about miracles purely as God suspending those, laws of physics. But God isn't interested so much, as I said, in changing the laws of physics. God is much more interested in changing the hearts of people. A couple of weeks ago, there was that tornado that hit Rogers. I'm sure you remember that. I was watching the news, and I think it was Channel 5 was interviewing the woman who lived in the house next door to the house where that little girl was killed. And the woman was saying, God miraculously protected my family. If my children had been 50 feet either direction, they would have been killed. But my two boys were saved because of God's protective power. Now, I'm told to death that she has that vivid and a lively, vital understanding of God's presence in her life. But what does that say about the little girl who did live next door and did get killed? What do we say to her mom? I mean, what does that say about God, that God decided to save these two boys, but didn't decide to save her? What does it say about the whole idea of miracles? I think it just runs us into some pretty major problems. And the fact is that God, in doing miracles, and I'm going to say it again, isn't so interested in changing the laws of physics as God is interested in changing the hearts of people. And there's a story, our story here, surrounding us, John chapter 4. It's the story where Jacob's Well gets its name. It's a story that's kind of been our home now in these weeks as we begin to explore what it means for us to be God's people here in South Minneapolis. It just hits us right on. Because it is one of the great examples of a story where we think Jesus did one of these miraculous things and it makes everything different. But I don't think that is how it is. I mean, let's pop into this story for a little bit. Here we got Jesus. He's as the story normally goes, he runs into this woman at this well in the middle of the day. He miraculously, with this sort of divine omniscience, knows all about her as soon as he sees her. And because of that, she, believes in him and everything. Okay, well, maybe that is how the story goes, and that is what happened. I think it's a little bit different than that. I want you to venture down this path with me a little bit in an alternative understanding of this passage. I'll tell you right off that it's my speculation. You don't need to agree with my reading of the story. Probably most scholars have not in the past. In fact, I know most scholars have not in the past. But for the sake of conversation and for understanding miracles, I think it helps a lot. So what do we have? We've got Jesus. He's on the run. I mean, things have gotten really hot in the Judean countryside there at the top. And so he's on his way back to Galilee, kind of his home place where he knows he's accepted a little bit better. He has to go through Samaria. And there's this little village on the way called Sychar. And outside of it is this well, a couple miles out of town. And that's Jacob's well. And so his disciples say, they're feeling sorry for him and say, Jesus, you just stay here at the well. We'll go on into town and get some food and we'll be back in a little bit. So Jesus is sitting there, hot and thirsty, middle of the day, out in the desert, no bucket or rope to get you water out of this well, waiting. Well, he looks towards town to see if the disciples are coming back, and all he can see through the heat waves rising off the desert is one lone figure coming out towards him. Now, that figure's a long ways away, but he can already tell this is not Peter coming back to ask him if he wants mayo on his corned beef and rye. I mean, that's very clearly the shape of a woman walking towards him. And he knows immediately, as soon as he sees that figure, exactly who she is and what her life's all about. Divine omniscience. Well, not exactly. I mean, think about it, okay? He's been walking all this way for days from village to village with all the other travelers that are going and coming with hours to kill in conversation. What do you suppose people talk about? Gossip. Now, if you are driving to St. Cloud, you will probably, when you arrive there an hour later, still be listening to the same radio station that you tuned in when you got on the entrance ramp to 35W at 46th Street. But if you want to St. Cloud, by the time you get there, you will be an expert on all the gossip of South Minneapolis, Loring Park, Robbinsdale, Rogers, Monticello, and St. Cloud before you ever get there, okay? Jesus had heard all about this woman before he ever got to town. She's one of the spicy figures in there. I mean, are they going to miss telling her story to him? No. I mean, and when he gets there in the middle of the day and he sees a woman walking, I mean, who comes to the well in the middle of the day when the sun is hot all by themselves? That's this woman. So when Jesus says to her, where is it here on the bottom? You are right when you say I have no husband. You've had 5 husbands, and the man that you're living with now isn't your husband at all. And she responds to him by saying, I see that you're a prophet. This was hardly her bowing down in amazement of his divine knowledge. It was really kind of a sarcastic comment. Oh yeah, you're a clever guy. Everybody knows that. She knows every stranger comes to town, knows all about her, and has probably already passed judgment on her. Just like she knows that all the women will never allow her to come to the well in the cool of the morning because she's not a respectable person. No, she's cynical, she's callous, she does not expect the world to treat her well whatsoever. She figures that this guy, Jesus, is just another one like all the others. And this next line is either going to be some words of judgment or a pickup. And so she decides to have a little fun with this guy that she laughingly calls a prophet and says, okay, no, I'll throw you a bone. I'm going to give you, since you're so smart, I'll give you the tough question of our day. The question has divided your people, my people, forever. So, should abortion be legalized? Is global warming, attributed to human action? Or, in her context, are we supposed to be worshiping on the mountain like the Samaritans say we are, or in the temple in Jerusalem like the Jews say we should? Now she knows this is going to get Jesus because he's a Jew. He's been pretty decent to her up to this point, but this is the hot button question. It's going to make his true colors come out. It's going to push him over the edge, and he will do what she expects every man to do: berate her, judge her, tell her that she's a blasphemous person for believing the things she does. And you know what? Jesus doesn't take the bait. No, he talks to her in a way that she has not been talked to before. He doesn't seem to take sides with the Jews or the Samaritans. He somehow seems to take God's side in the controversy. And he talks about worship in a way that includes her and his vision of what it means to know God, which is something she is never included in. Was a woman, as an outcast, as a Samaritan. And so when the disciples all finally show up and create all this commotion, and she sort of slips away in the middle of that to go back to town, her mind is going a million miles an hour. I have never known a man like this before. Was there a miracle performed that day? You bet. But it was not Jesus' miraculous knowledge of that woman. It was that Jesus cared about her. It was that Jesus began that process of restoration of her own identity, of her ability to have a relationship with God, and actually the beginnings of her relationship with the people around her. That was the miracle that day. You know, these miracles that alter the laws of physics are wonderful and they're great, but the truth is they don't really change anything, do they? I mean, think of all the people that Jesus healed or raised from the dead in the Bible. I mean, how many of you talked to? They're all gone, right? I mean, they finally all got sick and died, and they're gone. It didn't change their lives forever. Think about the tens of thousands of people who saw Jesus do miracle after miracle. Most of them did not believe because of it. Think of the disciples that traveled with him and not only heard him teach, but saw him do all these wonderful signs. As soon as he gets arrested, they run. And as soon as they find out he's been killed, they're depressed. And they're just not able to hold on to the hope of Jesus anymore. Those wonderful, drastic changes, those things that we call miracles, aren't the things that really change it. It's the peace of the places where he touches the hearts of people. And Jesus knows that. He said to Thomas, one of his disciples, we're ahead of ourselves here a little bit, I think. But he says to his disciples, it is good that you have seen and believed. Just think how wonderful it is for others that they have not seen, yet they believe. Can we believe and not have seen all those things? Generations later, one of Jesus' followers who writes the book of Hebrews says, now faith is to be sure of the things that we hope for, to be certain of the things that we cannot see. Now, was there a miracle that day? You bet. But it wasn't Jesus' knowledge about this woman. It was the fact that he cared for her in a way that was able to make a difference in her life. And that is how miracles work. You see, we pray for miracles, but God sends people. We pray for miracles, but God sends people. We want God to change something, big and drastic in our life, and God says, no, I've got more important things to take care of in your life. And just think about it. Jesus was the person that showed up to be the miracle in that woman's life, but he didn't do anything that none of us could have done. There's nothing about how he interacted with her that we could not have done. We think that we want that Mercedes to plop down in our driveway, or, we want our credit card balance to automatically just zero out, or we want that lump, that we're afraid of breast cancer to simply disappear. We want those things, and there's good reason to ask for those things, but what God really wants to do is to reconnect us with the people that we need in our lives to help us go day after day to understand who and what we are in this world. What we really want, what we really need is each other. We pray for miracles. God sends people. Now, Greg, you may say, that's all well and good. That's kind of a nice idea. And you can use John chapter 4 to support that. But what about all the other miracles? I mean, face it, the Bible's full of miracles, and they all seem to be full of shock and awe. I mean, it's just somehow they're going to impress people into believing in Jesus. And I want to tell you, no, I don't think they are. And to give you an example of it, let's look at this story of Jesus feeding thousands of people on the hillside, which is a couple of fish and a couple of loaves. This is a scene from a movie called Millions. It's a great kind of kitschy movie if you want to practice your British accents. It's a great one to watch. But here you got this little boy who sees saints. And he sees saints, and he happened to have $1 million stolen dollars just kind of fall into his life. He's trying to figure out what it means and what to do with it. You'll have to excuse a little bit of the language of his visitor here. It's St. Peter. He's kind of salty being a fisherman and all, but let's watch this.
For Christ's sake, don't take them little boxes. The ones about putting you in touch with like-minded organisations. You'll be received, man.
St. Peter died in AD 64.
Oh, don't remind us.
The money is robbed.
And who? Taking saying the keys, locks and general security, man. Including up there. I'm at the door.
Is it still alright? If it's robbed, can you still do good with it? Or should you give it back? I thought it was a miracle, but it's just robbed.
Yeah, listen. One day I was with you know who. And he went up into the mountains, and thousands of people followed him. The police said 5,000.
Everybody knows this story. Loaves and fishes.
See, I knew you'd say that. That's what everybody says. This yours?
It's the key to the old house.
Giant pin Tonga. Engineering perfection. Anyway, this kid comes up to us, about your size. His name was... I forgot. I still say it sometimes. Anyway, he comes up with these loaves and fishes, sardines, and Jesus blesses them and passes the plate round. Now, the first person he passes it to passes it on. He doesn't take anything, he just passes it on. Do you know why? Because he had a piece of land hidden in his pocket. And as he's passing the fish, he sneaks a bit of meat out and pretends he's taking it off the plate. You see what I'm saying? And the next person, exactly the same story. Every single bastard one of them has their own food. And every one of them's keeping it quiet, looking after number one. Well, as that plate went round with the sardines on, they all got their own food and started to share. And then that plate went all the way around and back to Jesus, and it still got the fish and the loaves on it. And Jesus was a bit taken aback. He says, what happened? And I just said, miracle. And at first, I thought I fooled him. But now I see it was a miracle. One of his best. But this little kid had stood up. Everybody there just got bigger. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Not really.
I'm talking about you.
No, I'm really lost.
You're trying too hard. That kid, he wasn't planning on doing a miracle. He wasn't planning anything except lunch. Something that looks like a miracle turns out to be dead simple.
But what am I going to do with all this? I just want to be good.
Look, I can't say too much about this because of that whole free will thing. But, see this key, keep it safe. Alright? And I'll have a word upstairs. See if I can get somebody on your case more permanent.
You know, I don't know about you. I don't need a once-in-a-lifetime miracle one that just knocks me off my feet. I need miracles every day. I need God's presence to break in every moment of my life. You know, and to tell you the truth, miracles can always be disputed. I see a miracle, you say coincidence. I see a miracle, you say medical advance. I see a miracle, you say a nice person doing a nice thing. And God all along says, exactly like I planned it. The next thing I think we need to understand is we want to be open to these is if we want to have miracles happen in our lives, we need to admit that we need one. I have a friend, Jane. Come on down, Jane. She's going to just share a little story, her story of everyday miracles with us. But the fact is, you know, when we keep our hurts and when we close ourselves off so that the windows of our lives cannot be seen by other people, God has a real hard time of letting those people be there for us when we need it. No, not yet.
How close? Okay, whoa. I think of my life. I am incredibly blessed. I'm a mom. I have two amazing children. I have family. I have friends. I am loved. I'm divorced. I work. And I'm so at peace. If my family and close friends are here right now, and they heard me saying I've had the most blessed life, they probably would look and say she's a bit off, even a little nuts. But I've had an incredible life. About 8 years ago, I was sitting in my church listening to my pastor, and she had asked us to do this exercise, to close our eyes and to listen to words and think about what came to us when we said those words. Love, faith, hope. I thought she hit me in the stomach. I had no hope. Nothing. I couldn't. I just sat there feeling sick. I've always had a perception that I'm a strong woman, great kids, solid career. And I'm sitting there that day in that pew, just without hope. I was at an end to a sad marriage. My husband, who I was divorcing, had lost another job in a long line of loss and was self-medicating with alcohol. My daughter had just been diagnosed with ADD, and I was facing my 7th tumor. I was at a place where I couldn't run away from extensive surgery that I needed after 2 years of trying to avoid it. And I had no strength and no hope. I went to see Pastor Greg on and off. This time I came to him in despair and in anger, angry with God. I talked, I cried, he listened, and he listened. And in frustration, I raised my voice and I said, I am so sick of hearing that God will never give me more than I can handle. I just have no idea what he's thinking. Greg was silent for a little bit, and then he shot back and he said, do you ever think that God was trying to hit you over the head with all this so you finally learn how to accept or ask for help? I didn't know what to say. I was speechless isn't necessarily one of my things, but I didn't know what to say. I went away and I went to God. And I prayed that he would give me the strength to learn how to accept help, that he would take from me the vulnerability that I felt when I had other people help me. I prayed that he would take care of my family, that he would give me the tools to lovingly, finally divorce a man I could no longer be married to, and that he would make me cancer-free. I am amazed at what comes when I let go. The depth of love that was shown to me when I finally, and was always there, I just never accepted it, was open to accepting it. The humbling part for me was people I knew well, people I didn't know at all, stepped forward. The school that my children went to delivered 60 days of meals to our family. My church carpooled. I couldn't drive for 4 months, so they carpooled my children all over. My coworkers donated vacation, so I never went off full pay for 6 months. And I came back having vacation time. My family took my children for a month and off and on after that while I was recovering. When unexpectedly I needed emergency surgery, families in town pulled together and took care of my children. And I had the most amazing miracle. I could accept help. I could accept help and feel okay, feel so loved, have so much that love that was showered on my family. It's funny, it's funny how quickly you get back into life once this was over. And and revert at times to your old habits and don't have the lessons in front of you as much as you should. But as many of us do when we go through something hard, I had to reevaluate where our family was financially and get us in a different place. I've been ill for about 5 years, been working part-time, and gone through a divorce that was expensive. And so I looked at changing our lifestyle. I knew that one of the changes I needed to do was work full-time, and was lucky I was in a situation that I could just move into that. And then I realized I needed to downsize, that I couldn't take care of the home that I had for the children. So we love the outdoors. I looked at moving a little bit further up north. I got a row home to build. It was all set, put my home on the market. And right before I was closing, the sale of my Minneapolis home fell through. So instead of putting my family in a safe position, I had 3 mortgages. I was a mess financially. And I just, again, was feeling as terrified as I could. And this is about a year ago. So we just took each month as it came, but never, ever did I have a day without hope. Never, ever did I not feel God's arms around me. And we prayed. I'm human, so I had half the days I was terrified, half the nights I wasn't sleeping, but the other we got through. And each month, little things would happen that would help get us through. And then a couple months ago, I was facing foreclosure on the new home, and realizing, we have our health, I have these great kids, we'll be okay. I had friends coming in town that I hadn't seen for years, and I thought, before they come, I better call and tell them emotionally I'm a mess. So I did that. I picked up the phone and I said, I know you're getting here this afternoon, but you should know this is going on. They came. We had this wonderful weekend, just beautiful old family friends that I love. And the afternoon before they were going, the kids were out playing and they sat me down. And they had gone to their father before the trip up. And he was in a position to put money in a trust for the girls and I. And so we didn't lose our home. And I once again have been blessed by incredible people, more miracles than I can even realize were miracles. And just a couple weeks ago, I closed on a house here. So they took the money that I didn't need anymore and they put it in college savings for Kate and Elizabeth. And I have a life that I never knew I was going to have. I have the most blessed life that God could have ever given me. I'm here, and every moment I feel God's arms around me, and I hope that my children will always feel that, and I hope that you will feel what our family's been blessed with. Maybe as my family and friends would say, in a different path, but I wish that for you. And thank you for letting me tell you my story.
What amazes me about her story is her persistence. We continue to learn over years what it would mean to follow God. And some paths that were maybe the hardest ones for her to take. And also God's persistence to make sure there's doors and windows and cracks to see through. When we admit that we need miracle, God finds ways to bring them to us. Because God does it to the people that we can open our lives to. And that brings us to the last point, that is, God intends for you to be a miracle. And I can say about that, a lot about that. I don't want to overanalyze that. You have been given gifts and strengths and abilities that God not only says are good enough, but these are the ones that I built this world to be around. I need them to be working. In just a minute, during the offering, and by the way, I just asked people, I think the bags are all hanging on my right, your left hand side rolls. If you can, whoever's the closest can take it and pass it down the row. If you have an offering, you can pop it in there. With the communication cards in there. But as that's going on, you're going to see this slide. People have been giving us these slides of their everyday miracles. And they're on our website, and please keep doing it. There's a story about it in our paper. But these are people's contributions to what their everyday miracles are.
It's the miracles that keep my hope alive. It's the miracles that makes my eyes. And when you is this great memory? What you do with my every day is
still doing miracles in and through us. One of the cool miracles, I think, is birthdays, celebrating birthdays. And we have 3 birthdays today. We possibly have more. Is there anyone else that has a birthday today? Okay, just thought I'd check. I think it'd be great if we could sing happy birthday to Braden and to Mike Conover, who is, well, not here right now. So Mike, I hope you're listening. And so there's someone else, one of the relatives. Oh, really? Darn. Okay, we're singing happy birthday to Braden today. Braden is great. He loves playing music. He loves this group. He loves you all. And it'd be a great way to show our appreciation of him by singing happy birthday in this key. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Braden. Hit the harmonies on this part. Happy birthday to you. Yes. We're gonna sing as you go. Go with God. Know that God is still working and moving in and through us. That our eyes are being opened to the miracles, the simple things that are going on around us. I pray that you experience something like that this week when you leave. We're going to sing a little U2. Let's, as soon as we're done with this, Greg is going to come up and say something. But let's stand together and